Hey BBs, it's Mireille from Yin and Juice. Welcome to your Mercury retrograde reading. For some of you who just want to jump straight to the reading, I'll put a timestamp in the description box below so you can get straight there if you're a little bit impatient. For the rest of you, I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde, its significance, and what we're going to look at in this reading. Also, warning, I do get a bit sweary sometimes, so if you don't like that, you probably should turn the video off right now because you're seriously going to get offended at some point. For the rest of you, I was called to do a reading for the collective because I think Mercury retrograde's been given a bit of a bad rap. I think it's had some bad PR. I think when it turns up, we all flip out and all these memes turn up in our feeds and everyone's like, oh my God, blame it on Mercury retrograde. And sure, there are things to be mindful of during Mercury retrograde, but it's not all doom and gloom, and let's just not all freak out and get into that sort of frenzied energy of, OMG, Mercury retrograde, so life is just going to be haywire. That's not what it's about. I like to look at Mercury retrograde as an opportunity to kind of do what Mercury's doing and looking like it's kind of slowing down, Mercury retrograde typically is a time where communication can go wrong, Mercury being the planet of communication. So, that's when misunderstandings happen, arguments, misinterpreting what people are saying and just not being able to get your point across or not really understanding what someone is saying to you in return. This Mercury retrograde starts in the sign of Pisces, Pisces being a very dreamy energy, very much about psychic abilities, but also going into a dream state and really sort of being able to sit in that space and let the things reveal themselves in that state. So let's take a little bit of the energy of Pisces as we enter this Mercury retrograde and maybe tap in to some of this stuff spiritually, open ourselves up to the opportunity that, signs, symbols, whatever it is that we're looking for may well come within our dreams or at times where we're not, completely conscious, and to maybe take some stock in what comes to us in those sorts of states. So the process we're going to take today for the reading, because it's a reading for the collective, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. This reading is not necessarily going to hit everyone's sweet spot. So that's why I've designed the reading to kind of look at three levels. I'm going to look at sort of, three themes. One, sort of what's in our sort of physical presence, what in our physical space. Another theme for what's in our heart space, and another theme for what's in our sort of like our soul level or our spiritual space. And then for some advice to kind of see how we can work through that. But just some stuff for us to be conscious of. If you're finding that maybe all three spaces are calling to you in the read, great. That means, there's a lot of stuff going on. But for some of you, it might only be, the physical space is meaningful for you right now, or the heart space, etc. So mix and match, take what's resonating and leave the rest behind. Don't think too deeply on it. This is not for you to analyze. If it's not speaking to you or intuitively straight away, then it's probably a sign that there's nothing in there. There's no message in there for you. And that's perfectly fine. So let's get cracking. I don't have a heap of space on this table, which is why I kind of need to sort of shuffle as I go along. But let's have a look at what the first theme is for our physical space, for what's in our sort of physical realm. So we've got invention. Interesting. Let's get one from the Numinous Astro deck as a clarifier for this. Something about invention. Venus and love. Let's get a tarot for a clarifier. The sun. Beautiful. And then we're going to get Soul Journey card. Honesty. And finally, a little affirmator to kind of have a final message for us. So what's happening for us? Positive thinking, great. So what's happening in our physical space right now? It's all about creativity. So Mercury retrograde, like I said, it's time actually for us to ponder and think and let things steep and percolate, right? So for some of us, there'll be a lot of energy put into creativity. So whether it's a creative endeavor, whether we're actually artists and whether we're, being called to create, to draw, to paint, to create in some sort of way, to collaborate with someone on getting something off the ground. So the theme for sort of our physical reality is around invention. So it could also be that, you know, you've actually got an actual invention. You're thinking, you know, I've figured out a way how to do something better, but I'm not backing myself right now to sort of get it off the ground. Clarified by Venus. So Venus being, you know, the card of love, it's saying beauty, harmony, romance, charm, receiving, sensuality, luxury, wealth, diplomacy, magnetism, value, pleasure, adornment, adoration, attraction, indulgence, taste, and style. So to me, this is like a labor of love. It's something that we're believing in and something that we're, you know, really holding dear. I don't think this is necessarily specifically about romance when it's coming to this invention. It's really more about what's bringing us pleasure and value. You know, what do we see as valuable in life that we can create, a reality that we can make real? And then the sun being such a positive energy, so this is the Modern Witch Tarot. It's really a card about joy, but also about positivity, making things happen, you know, things growing, things sprouting, you know, ideas that are actually coming to life. So really there's something in this sort of creative state that's sort of been almost in this dormant phase where it's kind of been percolating sort of in the background, happening for you. For some of you, this is probably something that's been happening for years and you're thinking, oh, when's the right time? When's the right time? But it really does bring you a lot of pleasure. It could even bring you, you know, something beauteous to beautify your environment. But there is a lot of positivity in this sun card, meaning that whatever that is, the pathway to that is already in front of you. This one's really interesting too. So we've got honesty. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. Bam, bam, no shit. So that's just being called to sort of saying that stop looking at other people for validation for this stuff, right? Stop looking at other people to give you some sort of signal that this is right, because the signal's already there. Spirit's already saying to you, all these things are in place. But what you do need to do is be honest with yourself. What are your blockers? What are the things holding you back? What's the shit that you're scared of? What's the stuff that you need to shed in order to sort of make this stuff happen? So use the energy of Mercury retrograde to ponder this, to know that this pathway is happening. That's your key card, I reckon. If this is calling for you, if this read immediately is saying something to you and speaking to you, I'm feeling and I'm sensing from Spirit that this is the key card. The honesty stuff, the calling yourself on your shit, because you're the only one in your own way, really. You're the only one standing in the way of whatever this creative endeavor is coming into reality. And the reminder here is positive thinking. In the garden of my mind, I water the good thoughts and weed out the bad ones. I throw in forgiveness and empathy seeds by the handful if I want, and I take a lawnmower to the jealousy and resentment patch. I'm a pretty badass mind gardener. Amazing. So exactly, you're the only one that's in your way with the thoughts. So get out of your head, get into your body and tap into what you already know, because you've already got the answers. Yes? Yes? Good. Okay. So that's what's happening for some of us in the physical space. Let's look at what's happening for us in our heart space. What's the theme that we're looking at in the heart space? Self-control. I'm a little bit like, I felt that one. And to clarify, two wanted to come out. So we've got Mars, action, and opportunity is a sextile. Let's get a tarot to clarify. Four of Wands, delightful. What's this to do with self-control in our heart space? Forgiveness. Heart space. Self-control. Personal growth. Okay, so immediately I'm sensing that heart space, we have some issues in terms of control. And what I mean by that is we're either too open-hearted or we're too closed off, right? But if I'm looking at the rest of the cards in terms of how this is going, it's probably saying to me that it's more likely that we're close-hearted, because we're looking at things like personal growth, forgiveness, opportunity, action. So to me, this heart space theme for us during this Mercury retrograde is very much around us wanting to control how we're feeling, you know, because we don't want to get hurt, because we don't want to be disappointed, because it's served us before, so we think it's going to be right, yet we feel like something's missing. So if in your heart space we're feeling this too much control of what we're giving, then we're obviously going to be receiving less as well, because the energy we give out is what we're getting back, which is probably why what these two wanted to come out as well, because, you know, in sextile opportunity, we're really looking at things like, you know, collaboration, assists, explains, provides opportunities, synergizes, creates possibilities for, opens doors, promises, brings insight to, communicates, welcomes, develops, which is the opposite of closed-heartedness, right? And as well, action, you know, Mars is very much a planet of getting shit done, you know, desire, impulses, courage, force, heat, strength, competition, workouts, excitement, thirst, impatience, anger, leadership, engine, potency, willpower, motor, sex drive. So again, this is sensing to me that we've also not just got a control issue with our heart space, but we've also got a control issue probably with our sacral chakra as well, because it's all about the sexy times, people. It's all about the sexy times. Doesn't necessarily need to be with a partner. Sometimes it's preferable, but we don't always need them, right? This is about you tapping into your own desire, your own sexuality, being clear on not needing to control it. Go wild, girl. Go wild. There is no need. Opportunity will abound if we sit in that space of getting what we want, you know, because I think sometimes when we grab things, you know, by the balls, literally or figuratively, it gives us that impetus and that drive to just make other things happen for us, right? So whilst Mercury retrograde is typically a time where we don't do things, this is actually saying to me that because we're controlling too much, don't stay in that energy of stagnation, right? You can be cautious, but be courageous, right? Or maybe it's not just about going straight into action. Maybe it's about understanding the opportunity, being open to whatever that looks like, and taking steps towards that. So for example, some of you might be dilly-dallying with online dating, kind of looking at people, kind of chatting to people, not really sure, a little bit scared, a little bit fearful of taking it to the next stage and meeting someone. Maybe chat to them just for a couple of weeks, right? But with the intention to go into action. You don't need to jump straight into it. But you know what? Do what you need to. Four of Wands. I love this card so much. So this to me really is about celebration. It's kind of, you know, a good foundational card. It's like happiness and joyousness. Oftentimes in tarot, it's seen as a card sort of, you know, of relationships, of marriage, of, you know, a serious bond. It could be, you know, deep friendship as well. But to me, it's like, you know, if we relinquish control and are open to opportunity and take some action, the opportunity for this is ahead for us. So regardless of whether we're in a relationship or not, we can always create a better foundation, a more stable foundation, a foundation that is based on equality, on simpatico, on synergies, on collaboration, right? Where we develop together. If we're single, then this is speaking to me of that is the pathway to get us towards that. But before we get there, what's the pathway? Forgiveness. I acknowledge that harboring resentment blocks the flow of love. No shit. So really, these two, I think, go together too, because we've got personal growth. As I move towards greater consciousness, I feel old thoughts and habits fall away. Like training wheels on a bike, they helped me get to where I am. But now that I can ride, I don't need those slow and crummy wheels, except when I'm making bike analogies. Penny farthing. Nailed it. So I think this personal growth is about self-forgiveness, right? All the other times that these things didn't work, all the other times that someone let me down, all these other times that I've been hurt, zero fucks for that. You need to let that shit go because you're blocking. This is the control, right? This is the control. Stop trying to control. Embrace, get into that space, personal growth. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so that's sort of what's happening in our heart space for some of us. Now let's have a look what the theme is sort of for the soul space, for the spiritual space for us during this Mercury retrograde. Devotion, I like it. I like it a lot. What's this about devotion? How can we clarify what we need to know, what the collective needs to know about devotion? Oh, mystery. Okay, let's get a little tarot to clarify. 6 of Cups. What's the pathway forward? What do we need to know? What's the insight around what's happening in our soul space? Perseverance. And finally, soul space. Soul space. Story of my life. Okay. So for some of us, in our soul space, in our sort of spiritual space, we're dealing with some big shit, right? We're dealing with ideas of devotion. So to me, devotion really is about surrender, complete surrender to something. For some of us who ascribe to organized religion, it could be that. For some of us who have different types of religious practices, spiritual practices, it could be that. For some of us, it could just simply be devotion and surrendering to a power that is greater than us. For example, nature. Nature's a great example. You know, the awe I have sometimes of watching, you know, waves when they're crashing, or even when the bushfires recently just literally just engulfing and destroying things. It is powerful. Mother Nature is a bad bitch. Don't mess with her. But it does help us come back into that space of reverence, right? Comes back into that space of there is something greater than I. So for some of us during this Mercury retrograde, and especially with this Piscean energy, which is very much about psychic abilities and dream states and those sorts of things, it's a really great time to tap in to our thoughts and ideas of devotion, which, unsurprisingly, we've got mystery. Because this really is, you know, the unknown, the unknowable, ESP, psychic abilities, boom, the cosmos, universal truth, oneness, source, the unnameable, shadow work, inner knowing, tingling, ghosts, other worlds, space, enigmas, the occult, and intuition. No surprises there. Totally tied in and really synergistic with the Piscean energy. Interestingly, 6 of Cups and Story of My Life. 6 of Cups traditionally is a card that's about, you know, nostalgia, memories, things from our past. So I think the link for the mystery there is really tapped into the story of our life. So as I tell myself the story of what's happening in my life, I choose to make the kind of story where even the tough parts have a sort of inner beauty. It's ultimately a happy story where every character, no matter how wicked, is doing their best. And let me tell you, it'll be worth it when I earn that Pulitzer Prize for Best Inner Monologue. So I think that's what this is about. I think the key to understanding this in the energy of this Mercury retrograde is in our past. And it doesn't necessarily need to be our physical past. Don't forget, we're talking about a spiritual soul energy here. This could be past life stuff. So for some of you, it might be worth, you know, tapping into some past life regression if you're already working with that kind of spiritual practice. But certainly there's definitely a link, and I'm feeling that there's something in our past, and because it's called out the tough parts here, there's something that we've wrestled with or some healing that needs to happen, and the signs are coming from something in our past that's the key to this mystery, right? It's the inner knowing, it's the intuition. How do we get there? Perseverance. I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. So on a soul level, it's almost like we kind of already know. Intuition's already saying, even though there's a great mystery that we might never really fully figure out, the reverence and our path to devotion and surrendering to something greater than us, the key is in our past. But we need to persevere with it. And what I mean by that is, you know, I'm sensing that sometimes when things get difficult, particularly with things that are like ethereal or not, you know, tangible, it can be confusing. It can be a time where a bit like, I don't make sense of some of this shit and I just can't be bothered. I think the key here, and what I'm sensing from spirit, is the perseverance, right? It's to stick with it. Sometimes these answers take years, if ever. Sometimes they'll come to us overnight. I don't know. We're different people. But the indicator here from spirit really is around understanding that you can set, you know, you can do whatever you set your mind to. So if you're going to say to yourself, I'm committed to this practice. And ask your guides for support, you know, whether you work with angels or whatever it is, but ask the universe for some support. I mean, funny little story. The universe and I often talk. It's normally at night when I'm in bed. Some of my friends will probably laugh at this, on Dean in particular. But sometimes I swear at her and I'm like, what the fuck was that all about? I don't understand. And other times I'm like, you know, beseeching her to help me understand and give me a sign, right? Because I, in my own practice, surrender to the universe. So that's my devotion, right? But sometimes I don't get it. It's a mystery. I really don't know. And I have to persevere. I have to keep asking her. I keep, you know, whether I'm swearing at her when I'm drunk or when I'm like, you know, just lying in bed crying about something, I stick with it. I still believe, right? So even when the universe throws curly ones at me, and even when the universe sends me things that, you know, are lessons, but at the time just are soul-crushingly difficult to deal with, I still believe, I still persevere, I'm still devoted, right? And whilst I might never completely figure it out, the light bulb moments do come, right? And oftentimes in my situation, and I know for some of you, the key is in our past. It is in the healing. It is in something that, you know, something that returns over and over again in different forms. It's a lesson that we haven't learnt. So look back, wind back, dial back, try to go, oh, why am I feeling so XYZ about something? Typically, you'll find it in your history. And it could be ancestral. So for some of you that are working with that practice, maybe it's about understanding sort of some of that ancestral and generational healing that needs to happen. So that's what's happening for some of us on the soul level. So to end the reading, I'm just going to get one card for all of us in terms of what's the energy that we need to be taking into this Mercury retrograde. Damn, yes, I love it. God, I get a bit excited, don't I? And then the WTF Rebel deck. I mean, I like to say what the fuck, but, you know, people can get a little bit upset. Stop texting, stop stalking, stop checking on that person, just fucking stop. For some of you, that might be quite pointed and you probably felt that little ouchie. And then the spiritual as fuck deck, which I also like because it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think sometimes we take readings too seriously. We just need to lighten the load a little bit, right? Oh, they both wanted to come out. So prayer is dope as fuck. Self-care isn't selfish. Okay, so Chariot. Love it. So the Chariot is all about forward momentum. It's about believing in yourself. It's about backing yourself, but it's also about balance. It's about understanding the duality, the light and the dark, the soft and the hard. You know, being passive as well as being assertive. It's having all of that together, but believing that your pathway forward is already there, right? You understand where you need to go. Believe that. Even if you don't know what the destination is necessarily, the journey is where it's at, right? The journey is where things happen. So move forward like the Chariot. And because the Mercury retrograde, again, it's a time where we're kind of a bit like, ooh, don't make any decisions. Ooh, don't do anything dramatic. I don't know, man. I feel like all these cards are kind of indicating that some of us do need to take action. Some of us do need to, like, you know, physically do that. For others, it's about, you know, if it's the spiritual level stuff that really spoke to you or the heart-centered stuff, the forward stuff doesn't necessarily need to be activity. Action could simply be thought. Action could simply be, I am now going to do this. Or I am now going to think about what spiritual practice needs to come into play. Probs this. So regardless of whether you're religious or not, prayer can mean many things. It could be in meditation. It can be intention. You could be sending love to people in the world. But it says, seriously, spend a little time asking the universe for what you want. I can't even make this shit up. Even if you're speaking into the void. Yeah, every night. At the very least, you'll hear your own wish list and get a better idea of what you really do want. You might even figure out what's the first baby step is getting at it. See, that can be the baby step. At the very best, there's a strong-ass genie in the sky who'll magically grant you all your wishes. Yeah. I'm big on this. Huge. Self-care isn't selfish. If you are really going to take care of yourself today, what would you do? So why aren't you doing that? No healthy person wants to sacrifice yourself for them. Really, anyone who wants that from you is a selfish jerk. Yes, noted. Probs aligned for some people in this very specific message. Don't assume that person in your life, don't assume that the person in your life are selfish jerks who can't handle you doing what you need to do for yourself. I mean, that's self-explanatory. But this thing, I feel like for some of you, this doesn't necessarily need to be about like a romantic interest or a love interest. This could be a friend that you've fallen out with. This could be someone that you're a little bit jelly about because they kind of live this seemingly charmed life, right? Stop it. Stop it. You know why? It doesn't serve you. In comparison, danger. Spend your time on someone worth it. Don't waste it on ridiculousness. Exactly. If there's friends that aren't reaching out to you or showing up for you or whatever, who gives a shit? Don't waste any more energy wondering what's going on. Sometimes we need to surrender and leave it. Park it, see if it swings back. If it's meant for you, it'll come back on your path. But you don't stray off your path because of whatever this is. But I do think for some of you, there is a real message here in terms of this whole stop fucking doing that and they're a selfish jerk. Whoever he is, he ain't worth your time, or whoever she is ain't worth your time. Either or, you got the Chariot, baby. That's your way forward. So that's your Mercury retrograde reading, bibbies. I hope you enjoyed it. Really like to hear what you think. So like, share, subscribe the video. Let me know what resonated with you, what didn't. Really would like to start a bit of a convo about it. I'm kind of new to this, so any feedback would be great. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.